Okay, so what just happened? These Oscar nominations are it's a massacre. Usually after nominations come out, you can talk about who's up and who's down, but it kind of feels like no one is up. Like somehow everyone either met expectations or underperformed, even though it's a zero-sum game. Where do I even start? Let's go to the film that came out the strongest, by which I mean it didn't have any real snubs, and that's Nomadland. 6 nominations in 6 good categories, and right now it's looking poised to sweep. Gold Derby has it expected to win every single one of its nominations except Actress. The only thing Nomadland didn't do was run up the score with surprise nominations in Supporting Actor or some of the technicals. But that's okay. No one on the Nomadland team is disappointed right now. The Trial of the Chicago 7 team, however, should be a little worried. With 6 noms, it managed to grab a somewhat surprising but not that surprising cinematography nod, pushing Tenet out. But the big news is Aaron Sorkin didn't get into Best Director. There's a very high correlation between winning Best Picture and winning Best Director, which you can't do if you're not even nominated. It's not completely dead. After all, Green Book certainly won Best Picture without a Best Director nomination, but I don't think Netflix is going to start referring to Chicago 7 as the Green Book of 2020. Trial of the Chicago 7 underperforming would be great news for Minari, but Minari didn't make the big splash I was hoping it would, and the one it probably needed to be seen as a potential Nomadland killer. But with 6 nominations, it's still in good standing. Steven Yeun became the first ever Asian Best Actor nominee, which is cool. That said, the lack of Alan Kim in supporting actor is disappointing, and it really hurts to see no editing nomination. That's going to hurt Minari's chances at a Best Picture win for sure. Now, if Minari can win Best Ensemble at SAG, maybe I'll feel differently. We'll see. So missing out on director is bad, missing out on editing is bad, and if you did both, then you're Judas and the Black Messiah. But don't cry too hard because this movie pulled off, I would argue, one of the most shocking and completely unexpected nominations in at least a decade. And that's Lakeith Stanfield in Supporting Actor. I still can't believe that happened. All season, he was being pushed for lead actor, and if you've seen the movie, he is unquestionably the lead. But for some reason, even though A24 submitted him for lead actor, the Academy decided it was actually a supporting role and nominated him anyway. What? That is so wild. Pretty sure that hasn't happened since Kate Winslet got switched from supporting to lead for 2008's The Reader, and that was to correct a case of category fraud. Don't get me wrong, I'm thrilled for Lakeith, and it's a worthy performance even despite the fraud, but I can't underestimate. There is not a single person in the whole awards community who saw this coming. The only bad news is that means Stanfield and Kaluuya may split votes with each other and lead to, Sacha Baron Cohen winning, maybe, but who knows. Sound of Metal had a good showing. Everyone was kind of iffy on Paul Raci in supporting actor. Some people, including me, thought it was a case of a performance that gets acknowledged by critics and ignored by the Oscars. But no, he got in. And tying for second place in number of nominations isn't too shabby either, even if it's tied with 6 other films. Pretty good for a movie that was seen as possibly not even getting into Best Picture. Promising Young Woman also looks pretty decent right now. Emerald Fennell makes up one of 2 women nominated for Best Director, first time that's ever happened. Should have been 3, but we'll get to that in a bit. Carey Mulligan looks really strong to win Best Actress, and there's a chance of an upset for Original Screenplay. But we'll have to wait for the WGA winners before I'm confident in that. There's not really much else to say, this is just a good showing without any shocks. Same for The Father, which showed up everywhere it needed to remain alive, and nothing more. Feels kind of weird that Mank got the most nominations, which was expected, but it still didn't get into original screenplay or editing. I can't recall the last year where a film not only had the most nominations, but nearly doubled the second place films, and yet it was still clearly not a real Best Picture contender. I guess it did have to get 10 nominations in order to fully mirror The Irishman. Let's just hope for Mank's sake that it can pick up at least 1 win. Sorry, Marty. But the real tragedies of the day are One Night in Miami and Ma Rainey both getting snubbed for Best Picture. It feels especially bad because there's only 8 Best Picture nominees this year. They totally could have squeezed at least one of them in. And if the Academy had just gone with a fixed 10 nominees, which they're doing next year, both films would have almost certainly made it in. On top of the Best Picture snub, Regina King didn't make it into Best Director, and Ma Rainey didn't make it into Screenplay. I want to say the Ma Rainey snubs happened because Netflix gave up on it, but they gave up on Mank too, and it still did pretty well. And for One Night in Miami, I guess Netflix dumped it in favor of Sound of Metal and Borat. I don't know. Of One Night in Miami, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Da 5 Bloods, and the many other acclaimed offerings from black filmmakers this year, it's odd that Judas and the Black Messiah is the only one that got into Best Picture. There were some surprises in the below-the-line categories too. Dick Johnson is Dead, Welcome to Chechnya, and All In, The Fight for Democracy were all acclaimed documentaries, the latter two of which were expected to show up in visual effects and original song respectively, and they were completely shut out. The documentary branch is kind of known in recent years to seemingly deliberately try to vote against common predictions. I haven't seen the other two snubs, but I highly recommend Dick Johnson is Dead. It's a very strange but touching story. International film is kind of fun. Better Days got in, despite being the least likely to be nominated according to Gold Derby. But another round is going to win for sure, especially after its surprise director nomination. Oh my god. It's Pavel Pawlikowski getting nominated for Cold War all over again. Maybe it's the directing branch trying to acknowledge the Dogma 95 movement without uttering the words Lars von Trier. I don't know. Shorts are always tough to predict, but it's surprising to see that the acclaimed Pixar short Out is out. Usually Pixar shorts are free nominations. Tenet underperformed really hard with no nominations for score, editing, sound, or cinematography. Although the production design branch threw it a bone, so hey, enjoy it, Chris. Now that I think about it, Best Actress and Supporting Actress pulled off probably the biggest surprise of them all by not being surprising in the slightest. They both went 5 for 5 along Gold Derby odds, even though those two have been chaotic all season. I was not expecting those to be the only boring categories. But finally, we have to present the In Memoriam. The following films were expected to do well just a few short months ago, but today they've left empty-handed. I'm Thinking of Ending Things, was unable to even start things. Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always has opted for the former. The personal history of David Copperfield couldn't live up to its great expectations. The Invisible Man never showed up. Birds of Prey didn't leave the nest. The nest didn't leave the nest. Malcolm and Marie couldn't get past the critics. Palm Springs will have to try again tomorrow. And finally, First Cow has been put out to pasture.